Welcome back, friends. It is the Grand Cran Master, Aaron Hendon.
The Cran Master?
The Cran Master.
Am I a Cran Master?
You are the Grand Cran Master.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I am your Uki. I am your Uki Chris Angel.
Wow.
An Uki is the one they train on in martial arts. You're the one that gets like punched and thrown and knocked
Is
down.
that true?
Yeah. I had a friend who was an Aikido master guy. He was like, hey, come up here and help me demonstrate something. You'll be the Uki. And so I was yeah. Anyway,
Uki and
yeah.
and Cran Master. Cran Master isn't a thing. Cran Master is not.
No, I made that up. But
okay, fine.
yeah.
Okay.
But taking the purple crayon for a walk, I figured, you're the Cran Master today.
I love, I'm big on cranberry juice, by the way. So, and the other great reference for crayons are, there's this great new movie, a relatively new movie at this point called My Old Ass.
Yeah.
With,
I think I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen the trailer. Yeah.
On Netflix, and it's with what's her name, who we love, Aubrey Plaza.
Uh-huh.
And it's a spectacular movie. It's just fantastic. And they're cranberry farmers. I'm giving nothing away by telling you
Got it. Okay.
that piece.
Nice.
But they're cranberry, which is such an oddball profession, right?
Yes. Hey, just to be clear, when I say Crayon Master, I mean the crayons, the purple crayons.
Oh, the Crayon Master, the
Crayon, not as in a cranberry master.
I hear it short for cranberry, but you were like
the crayon.
Crayon.
The grand. What are you, from New York? You enunciate everything?
That's okay, man. Okay, the Crayon Master. The Crayon Master.
The Crayon Master. All right, let's stop delaying. Let's get into this conversation.
All right, well, that was the conversation that we wanted to have today, was just that whole world of, but taking the crayon for a walk, that's
right.
That's the flag we fly around here, right?
That's right.
So to clue you all in on where this conversation started, which may or may not matter, we've got we're launching a mastermind again, and this is for people that have completed the 9-week mindfulness training, how to live a grateful life. And we're looking at what are the topics, what's the context of that, what's the container, right? Where's that going to go? And so much of what we do around here is taking the crayon for a walk, is like, see what the crayon wants to draw, and then being in a dance with that, right? Mm-hmm. Which some people might call listening for God's plan. You knew I was going to get it in there. What does God want for me now?
Yes.
Which is really not a bad context for that. It's really not I don't even have a problem with that. Where prayer is speaking to God, meditation is listening, and I get all my good shit from meditation. And but there's a dynamic in being a CEO of CEOs. In one hand, you're the visionary.
Yeah.
It's your company. Mm-hmm. You have a purpose, a mission, a vision. You are out to fulfill on something. You have a big why. If you take all the conversations we've ever had around here, you can begin to hear, what matters to you, what's your true east, all those.
Yeah.
What cathedral are you building?
Cathedral. Yep.
Yeah. All those things are, and you've been, to whatever degree you have, been taking the crayon for a walk and seeing what opens up next, and all of that is great. I mean, it's what we've been preaching. And there's this, and I had this experience this week where my wife took a launch your online program in 7 days thing, course, and it was brilliant. I thought it was really well done. I don't remember the woman's, it's Alina something. I don't remember her name, but she was really smart and good and authentic and not slick in it. The ways that those things get to be, I don't know, they turn me off when they're slick.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was good. And one of the things that she has her students do, and I thought this was super smart and worth talking about, was, you post you make a Facebook post and you say, I'm thinking about making a course that does X, solves some problem that you
Mhm.
are interested in solving,
Yeah.
right? What's the problem that you solve? I'm going to run a course. My wife is doing a course for women that are depleted
Uh-huh.
from having given too much. That's in a very short sentence. That's who she speaks to. That's her work.
Right.
And, if you're interested, comment here and let's talk about it. No price, no course, nothing. And Alina, the woman that teaches the course, is clear. Don't write anything. Don't write a module. Don't do anything. Interview these people.
Mm-hmm.
They're your target audience for the problem you want to solve.
Yep.
They heard the problem. They heard it. They want it solved. So talk to them and find out in their words
Mm.
what they would want to get out of that course, and then go build that course. Use those exact words in the marketing, use those exact words in the design, build the modules out from what they tell you they want, what it would look like for them to have that solution.
Right.
And I thought that's one possible way to let your customers take the crayon for a walk,
Yeah.
and then you go and you're gonna, I don't know, follow them. You're gonna then go,
Yeah.
keep
Right.
fulfilling what it is that they want in their world. And I just thought that was a really interesting way to an interesting enough conversation, because it's different than me taking the crayon for a walk.
Yeah.
It's not just my good idea.
Right.
It's not just what speaks to me from the universe. I'm out here listening to what my customers want. And I thought,
Yeah.
we don't, in the world of CEO-ness, that's a really
Uh-huh.
useful
Yeah.
and interesting dialogue to have. So anyway,
Yeah. Seth Godin years ago said, stuck with me. He said, don't find people for your products, find products for your people. And the whole thing was like, to your point, like in an entrepreneurial space, we can tend to be like, this is what I want to create. Now, who wants to buy it? Hey, everybody,
right,
I made this thing. Who wants to buy my thing? And he's like, listen, once you, specifically in the context of tribes, 1,000 true fans, like, you find your people. Once you found them, what else do you want? Let me source that for you. Let me bring that to you. And so I think that's very specific to what you're saying here, which is ask your people what they want and and you guys already found each other. There's already trust. So now that you found each other, just keep finding out what do they want next and what do you want next. Let them take the purple crayon for a walk.
yeah, that's it's nice too, because it dovetails in this whole world of mindfulness, because I get to watch. This happens a lot when I write ads,
Yeah.
and in any kind of ad testing that you do. It's really the same thing with selling houses, with pricing a house. Is you don't know shit. You're gonna start where you start,
Yeah.
and you're gonna use whatever genius you have to start, but you got to dance to what the market tells you.
Yeah.
You or perish. I mean, there's no,
Right.
no two ways, no other. That's it. Um, so this is a really interesting way to go about soliciting from the market what it wants. When you write ads, if you're testing ads,
Uh-huh.
you don't know what headline is going to work. You don't know what language is going to work. You don't know anything about it, and you're sorting through to see which get the most clicks,
Yeah.
which resonate most with your target audience, and you've got to be open to that. Versus, I mean, I remember, when I wrote my first book, I was very, very attached to, this is what I want them to buy,
Mm-hmm.
which is why no one bought it, because you, you
Uh-huh.
know, it's the problem real estate agents have when all they post is their open houses.
Right.
on social media because no one is interested in the thing you're interested in. That's
Uh-huh.
not that's not the formula.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah. Yeah.
job's not to get them interested in what you're interested in. Your job is to get interested in what they're interested in.
Mm.
Find your tribe. Find the people that are already interested in what you're
Yeah.
interested in. Find a group
Yeah.
of people. But if all I'm interested in is real estate and I really was at the time very fascinated by the way,
Mhm.
I still am actually, but the way real estate works, the machinations of the industry where that the consumer doesn't know is happening in the background, and they have all kinds
Right.
of misconceptions and myths and making really bad decisions all the time
Yeah.
in a really really expensive proposition, and having really no way to know that they've ever made a mistake.
Right.
As far as they know, they did the best. It was fine, but they still don't know that they made massive number of mistakes, and no one's ever going to tell them. All that shit really bothered me, but
Mm.
it didn't bother them.
Hmm.
It doesn't bother people. That what they don't know,
Mm. Sure.
and
Right.
they don't know doesn't bother them.
Mm.
You can't you cannot sell them a solution to a problem they don't think they have,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
It's
got to find out what problems they already think they have,
uh-huh.
and then find solutions for there. And then in those solutions, if you can get their trust enough to illuminate additional problems, great. But they're
Yeah.
unlikely to just assume you know better about
I like
problems
that
they don't think they have.
if you slow it down and you think about meditation. I'm currently going through your 9-week
Hmm.
course and cohort. And those spaces of noticing, seeing the thoughts as you're meditating. Oh, I had a thought. Oh, there was another one. And you're just watching the thoughts, that there's a stepping out from behind the being the one having the experience to the one observing the one having the experience. And I hear something similar in that when you're asking your people what they want, there was like instead of listening to what they say through the lens of um, the one having the experience, I'm observing me listening to them. Like there's an opportunity to be really mindful of like, yeah, don't go in with any preconceived ideas about whether you can or can't do what they're asking for.
Right.
Just sit with. It's as if what they're saying to you are like your own thoughts that you're observing. You're just observing what they're saying, and you go like, is there anything I want to do with this? What do I notice about it? What do I hear about it? Like, I don't. It's interesting because I don't think I do that a lot. I'm a good listener, and I do listen, but I don't often when it comes to business. I don't often ask them what they want because I'm very attached to what I want to create.
Hmm.
Business for me is an art. Business for me is my self-expression, and I'm not interested in you telling me how to self-express. I want to find that out. But to to your point about your first book, like I think my business could be producing a lot more than it's producing, and I just haven't really asked people what they want.
Yeah, it's interesting about that thing about art. Art is really, I mean, I spent much of my youth
Yeah.
in that world, right? Went to art school
Uh
and had all that and all that righteousness and all the punk rockers that I hung
huh.
out with, and you know, selling out and commercialization and
uh huh.
the villainization of selling out, right?
Uh huh. Yeah.
And how that's
Uh
from
huh.
you know that's always the death knell of punk is that's the call is don't
Selling
sell
out.
out. Yeah,
Uh huh.
selling out, right? I remember Bob Weir talking about selling. I was like, we tried to sell out. We've been trying to sell out for fucking ever. No one's ever been buying it. We'd love to sell out, right? Um, when they
Hmm.
finally did with Touch of Grey. Um,
Hmm.
but it's like, and then from the artist's perspectives, there's all that judgment about they're a corporate sellout, right?
Right.
You're just a shell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then there's, if you're at the same time, there's a context of, look, if I'm going to be of service to people, I need to meet them where they are,
Yeah.
and
Ooh,
that's,
we just kind of moved into a tension here, and we kind of when we talk about the tensions, I love
yeah,
it. We kind of just found that like this tension between being of service and yet being self-expressed and really bringing your art to the world. Shout out to Rick Rubin,
Yeah.
the creative act
Yeah,
of
right.
art.
Because his thing is you never go to the fucking audience to ask them what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
want.
right.
I wouldn't go to the audience to ask them what they want.
Yeah.
That's not the job of the artist.
Ooh.
Right? And I think on one hand that's completely valid. You don't go to the audience to ask them what they want, right? Because they don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting thing too. Yeah, there's an interesting tension there because you're I mean Steve Jobs often said if I ask people what they want,
Yeah.
what they want, I forgot what he said is, but
I don't know, but Henry Ford was like a faster horse,
yeah,
like
faster horse, right? That's because they're not the visionary,
right,
right?
right,
Um,
right.
so there's that world of the artist, right, in which it is what you're creating, and you're the one taking the crayon for a walk, and then when you
Hmm.
get into the commerce of it,
Yeah.
how do you then
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I just yeah.
yeah, how do you then get that to sort out? God, I hadn't even thought about that particular tension about it, but that's a real
Yeah.
thing if you're going to be an artist, if you're going to view yourself from the perspective of being an artist.
Uh-huh.
And
I just yeah. Go
I
ahead.
just think there's an inherent, it's interesting. Is there an inherent antithesis? Is commercialization and artist expression antithetical to each other?
Well, so yeah, so I'm glad you said that because I was just as you were chewing on that, I was just thinking about Ikigai, which we've talked about before, right?
Yes.
Where Ikigai is kind of this, it kind of holds the tension. Ikigai allows for that tension because it's both.
Mhm.
Let me try to pull it up here.
It's do what you love. What are you good at? What do you love to do? What do
Yeah.
people pay for?
And what does the world need?
What does the world need?
Yeah. What can you be paid for and what does the world need? So it holds, like if you asked, hey, what do you need in this? I'm thinking about creating a course. What do you want it to include? What do you need? And they say, and they deposit into the middle of the room or the Venn diagram, this is what I need. Awesome. And how I can solve that, what I'm good at and what I love, here's how I can solve that is listening, is being mindful of what they said. It's giving them space to take the crayon for a walk, but it's also letting you take the crayon for a walk in terms of how you decide to serve that need.
Right.
So there we go.
Yeah, because
Ikigai
you're
just
not.
solved it.
That's right. That's right. Because how you're solving it is your self-expression.
Right. Yes. Right. That's right.
Um,
Huh. Right. Interesting.
the whole artist conversation is so funny. It's such an odd conversation because I mean, we love the book, the Rick Rubin's book,
Right. Right.
and I've loved his work for years. And even in all of that, it's funny. Even in all that, I don't know if you ever read the Beastie Boy book, but
I did not.
oh, all right. So if you ever get a chance to listen to the Beastie Boy book, I never read it. I've listened to it. Um, it's a fucking journey.
Yeah.
Different people read each chapter,
Uh huh.
like Amy Poehler and
Oh, okay.
uh, uh, uh,
Nice.
just a whole variety of different people read different chapters. John Malkovich.
Oh, nice.
It's fucking outrageous. It's great. Spike Jones reads
Oh, wow.
a chapter. Um, so it's fucking great, and this is really interesting. So Rick Rubin, right? The
The
creator.
creative act.
What did he write? What was the name of the book?
The creative act.
The
The
creative act.
creative act.
Okay.
Yep.
Don't ask the audience what they want. It's your expression. You go do you, right?
Yep. Yep.
So the Beastie Boys and Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin's the original DJ for the Beastie Boys. You know this?
Okay. I didn't know that. No.
Okay, yeah. So the Beastie Boys met Rick Rubin when they were all like 18 or 19. He was a student at NYU, and he,
Hmm.
had, and he was the guy that, so he was their DJ, went on their first tour with them, and produced their album and produced Run DMC, and started Def Jam Records. And Licensed to Ill, the first Beastie Boy album, comes out on Def Jam, and it's fucking global, massive, fucking
Yep.
unbelievable thing. And the Beastie Boys are this stupid large, you know, act.
Uh-huh.
And uh you know, and their shows are all about them getting drunk, and you know, they're throwing beer all over the place, and you know, it's very much Licensed to Ill style, right? I mean, if you, I didn't, I didn't get into the Beastie Boys until I never listened to Licensed to Ill when it came out. That wasn't my thing when it came out,
Yeah.
so I wasn't part of all that. But that whole bro culture of Licensed to Ill was a real thing. It was very, you know, fight for your right to party,
Right, right.
and by the time they got done with all the tours for that album, supporting that album, the Beastie Boys were like done with that. They were like, okay, we don't really want to do this. This is not, how many more, you know, large penises can we have on stage if go-go dancers in cages and drinking beer? We don't want to be that act. That's not,
Right, right.
we don't want to do that.
Interesting. Okay.
And Def Jam, Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons were like, no, that's what works. That's what's selling. You have to make that album. You have to give us another. You have to. They had
Uh-huh.
a album deal, and they were expecting that album.
Hmm.
And the Beastie Boys were like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not doing that. And Rick Rubin, the creative act, was like, no,
Yep.
that's what's selling. That's what we need you to do. And they were like, fuck it. And they broke their contract with
Oh.
Def Jam, and they
Huh.
moved to California, and they never got another dime off of License to Ill
Huh.
because they broke their
Wow.
contract with Def Jam.
Wow.
And uh and then it was like another 2 years, and they, you know, they just were like done with the industry, and they were like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is not a thing for us.
Uh-huh.
We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. And they just took the time. They separated. They moved from New York to California, or one of them, Adam Yauch, moved to California. Anyway, they eventually wound up producing Paul's Boutique, which is where I found them. And I don't know if you ever heard Paul's Boutique, but
Mm-mm. No.
okay, Paul's Boutique is someone after Adam Yauch died. I read a little tribute, you know, one of the big things, all the different tweets. And Paul's Boutique was the Chemical Brothers, and it was the tweet was Paul's Boutique took every song ever written and overlaid it with every word ever spoken and put it together. I mean, the album is so fucking heavy, so heavily mixed, and so intricately done.
Hmm.
It's the
Wow.
greatest piece of work. It's one of the greatest pieces of music I've ever heard. Greatest albums of all time, as far as I'm concerned.
Huh.
Just completely lasts, and it's just unbelievable, and nothing like License to Ill.
Yeah, yeah.
And but I think it's interesting that here's Rick Rubin,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Right,
and
right.
50 years later, like, you know, don't ever ask your audience what they want. And at the same time, I don't know how he would be about it today, but
Right.
you know, I mean, Rick Rubin was as old, you know, was like 2 years old and in charge of a record company that, you know, was like, hey, this fucking worked. And from the record company's perspective, was demanding that and I don't even know
Mm.
that that's Rick Rubin's perspective of it. I know that's the Beastie Boys perspective of how that went down.
Sure.
But I think that's
Hmm.
an interesting story about the tension
Yeah.
there,
Mm-hmm.
is that the demands of commercialization upon the artist, and even someone who is so pro artist as Rick Rubin is now,
Right.
was so in the world of commercialization at that moment, was like, no, it needs to be what we
Yeah.
know is going to sell. And Paul's Boutique did terribly, did not hit, and because most, again, that's the way Capitol Records promoted it, and
Yeah.
also different issues with the promotion of it. In retrospect,
Right.
right, when you go back and look at that album, that's
Hmm.
one of the great. You would
Huh.
love that album. It's unbelievable. Um, Anyway, I just think it's an interesting expression of that tension. So I think if we look at our businesses like art, we do have to respect that tension. What's the market going to buy?
Uh-huh.
And then how can we fulfill on it while also building the cathedral we're interested in building and honoring where our crayon wants to go.
Yeah.
And an interesting way to do that is what I thought Alina's process was, which, okay, well, don't paint anything yet.
Right.
Find out what is interesting, how the market speaks about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? How does the market speak about the painting you're thinking of painting? Right? And then if what they say is something you can deliver with authenticity, well, now you got a perfect match.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And in the background of that, it's not saying, hey, what do you want to be, what do you want as a painting? And then asking you to go become a car mechanic. What's
Right.
implied in there is that there's a particular way you intend to serve people through
Right.
the skills and the things that you love and that you're good at. Sometimes we miss that because you might come into that and think so openly about, oh, they said they want that, so I have to go do something that I'm not skilled in.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying.
No. And it's interesting too, because, I mean, you look at the Renaissance,
Uh-huh.
Michelangelo, it's just, I can't
Yep.
think of extreme example. All of it commissioned work.
Hmm.
I mean, just
Interesting.
like
Yeah.
paint the ceiling of a chapel. What the fuck? He's a fucking house painter. You know, I mean, he paints murals.
Right. Right.
He's a muralist. That's a fucking mural. That's as commercial as you get. Here's money, paint this house.
Uh-huh.
Here's money, carve me a statue of Jesus. I mean, it's just not like
Uh-huh.
it's straight up commercialism
Yeah. Right.
and expression, as it turns
And
out, by
expression.
the
Yeah.
what we hold up as one of the greatest artists of all times. The myth of the star. So there's that mythos of the starving artist.
Uh-huh.
We have
Right.
to contend with the
Mythos.
drunk
Yeah.
blues man kind of thing that killed Janis.
Uh-huh.
You got to
Uh-huh.
suffer to sing the blues. That whole genre that killed Janis Joplin and so many
Uh-huh.
people. That whole
Yeah. Yeah.
world of that. Um,
Hmm.
the way we look at you know pop music through that lens, or and it's not okay for artists to sell their work. I mean, that was always a big conversation in art school. Um,
Hmm.
and then there's the opportunity for, like, when the Beastie Boys said no, we're going to do it this way. The market caught up to them,
Right.
right? They
Yeah.
kept
Yeah.
going, and the market caught up to them. And
Hmm.
in a lot of ways, you could never predict that kind of thing. Um, how to get, if you're true enough to yourself. So that's just all the tension there is to dance with.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's you taking the crayon for a walk. There's your customers taking the crayon for a walk. There's the line you're
Yeah.
going to draw. There's at what point is it selling your soul, and at what point is it, there's an interesting interview with Harrison Ford, which I love. We
Mm-hmm.
love Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
He was talking about, the interviewer was asking him, does it ever make you feel stupid, when you're there acting as the Red Hulk? Do you just feel stupid and dumb? And Harrison Ford said, no, that's what the money is for.
Nice. That's great.
And that is, you know, that way. It's,
Right.
that's what the money's for. It keeps you from feeling stupid. They're paying me to do that. They are paying me to do this. I'll do that.
I'll do that.
And so everyone gets their own lines. Everyone gets, to draw their own lines, what you will do, what you won't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tell our agents on our team all the time, you don't have to work with everybody.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
You can fire clients that are out. That client wants this from you and you're unwilling to do that. Great. Fire that client. Don't do that.
Right.
You don't have to, you're not their beck and call bitch, is how we say it on the team.
Uh-huh.
Like, someone calls you at midnight, don't pick up the fucking phone. You're not their beck and call bitch. You don't,
Yeah.
It's not your job. So, um,
Good.
but those are all tensions worth feeling
Mm-hmm.
into for yourself.
I like how mindfulness can play a role here, just in the sense of, and this might be the lesson and a place to wind it down, because I feel like there is a if you're in the inquiry of like, what do they want versus what do I want to create, if you're and you're you can get a little bit, because I've been in this space, you can get confused by, well, which one am I going to listen to? Which one is it? And I can't decide because there are too many, it's too noisy in that space. And mindfulness can be a really versatile tool in that, like to really sit with and get present to what's here right now. Uh, if you don't use mindfulness, then what are you going to use? Logic, or a
Right.
pros and a cons list, a Benjamin Franklin close on yourself? Like, well, the pros of it are this and the cons of it are, I mean, like, if you want to be at peace with yourself, for me, I'm finding mindfulness really brings me a lot of peace with the decisions that I make. And then sometimes you could say some people will make decisions and they're still not at peace with the decision they made, but they're going to do it because that's what the market wants, or this is what I said I was going to do. And I just think that there's something about mindfulness that brings a lot of peace to whatever decisions you make.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you can trust yourself,
Yeah.
right? When you get quiet and all those biases sort of slow down and all the in order to's get seen for what they are, you can make a call that you can trust. And the ultimate in taking the crayon for a walk is knowing that no matter what, you can't make a mistake.
Yeah. Right.
Do it or not is going to be the
Yep.
next thing is going to open up.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Good
Yes.
stuff, man.
Right. That's a good place to end that.
The Crayon Master.
The Crayon Master.
Aaron, the Cran Master. Thanks for another great episode. Hey, if you guys want to learn more about Aaron's next cohort, where can they go, Aaron?
TheGratefulBreath.com. It's how to live a grateful life in a fucked up world. And if you're in real estate, you can go to the Realtor's Edge and sign up for how to live a grateful life in a fucked up industry.
Nice. Love it. Yep. That's a great place to start, gang. And then there are things on the back end of those experiences where you can continue this journey of mindfulness in different spaces that Aaron and I are working on creating. So go to thegratefulbreath.com or therealtorsedge.com and learn more. Thanks for hanging out. If you'd like to subscribe to our channel, do that and leave a review. We'd love that as well. And until next time.
Peace.
Peace.